Well, I didn't know I was going to fly for a career. It just kind of happened for me. So back in my neighborhood, we were on the final approach path into Offutt Air Force Base. So we would ride our bikes up to the old Omaha airport. Up there were 3 B-25s. And on Saturday mornings, we'd go up there and play bomber crew. And you wonder what it's like. Started college, I went into ROTC. I ended up going down a navigator path, and next thing you know, I'm graduating, and eventually I had enough hours. I get a call one day, and it's from my commander, and he says, you're going to Euro-NATO joint jet pilot training. That's when the first rumors were out there that the B-2 would be coming out and what the crew makeup might be and this and that. But then as Kosovo became more the attention of the world, and I was selected to be among the first few. A lot of the design of the B-2 cockpit came from the F-111, so it was an easier transition for me. It was clearly a lot heavier than other aircraft I've flown, so I could feel the weight of it getting airborne for the first time. You're not maneuverable. If they pick you up on radar, there's nothing you can do. First time ever that those would be used in combat, so it's all about survivability. That night from my commander, and he stands up and says, you're executed. You're going into combat. So we're both packed in our seats. We've got our helmets on, visors down, our mask is up, and outside is this jet black. We can see every star. I felt every emotion at once. Continued eastbound, press in on our plan. Our time to go begins driving down, 60 seconds, 30, 20, and then 5 seconds, the bay doors come open. I could feel it in the seat of my pants, and then 3, 2, 1, the first weapon releases, the second weapon releases, and then pretty soon that very quiet night, an image, it changed in a heartbeat. All that while, those seconds seem like minutes, and you're like, oh, we're giving them angles. If they didn't know we were there before, they'd certainly be looking for us now. Running on adrenaline, we were fairly low on fuel, so we found our tanker. Now we have enough fuel to get home. Approached the eastern seaboard. Yeah, could finally hear American voices. It just felt good. We pressed inbound, checked in, and air traffic control didn't say anything. Here you are, okay. Yeah, I always get emotional when I talk about seeing the U.S. again after all that. I'm very lucky, very proud, and very fortunate to have had the opportunity. Just about anybody who's contributed to the B-2 gave me the tools and technology I needed to do what I had to do, and so I'm really just proud of that airplane.
When the Soviets launch an attack against the United States, the first thing we're going to want to do is to counter that ongoing attack, which will be their ICBM silos. Bomber today. I could not stand in front of you and tell you I could carry out my mission if I didn't have a penetrating bomber today. This is what we see when we look at the Soviet Union and their radar pattern and the associated defenses that go with it. By 1998, from a B-52 or a B-1's perspective, this is what the crew is going to be staring at. This is what a B-2 crew would be staring at. Basically, the B-2 will be able to come into the Soviet Union and go through the Soviet Union without being encountered by any Soviet radar system. And I don't have anything else now or on the horizon that can do that side.
So there was that whole part of testing the aircraft. You had to develop special test equipment. We didn't really have test equipment and diagnostics for low observables. And one by one, the team was very innovative and they developed from scratch various machines and tools to help check out that aircraft to gain the confidence to be able to predict, yes, we now know that this plane is going to meet all the criteria that's in the engineering drawings. It's good to go, and you could go fly and succeed with low observable properties. That was a huge undertaking.
People of America depend on our Air Force to keep the peace. For the last 42 years, the manned long-range bombers of the Strategic Air Command have proven that they are the most flexible asset in our nuclear triad. In a very real sense, the SAC air crews and the aircraft they fly have been the bedrock upon which strategic deterrence rests. The B-2 underlines our commitment to the manned bomber.
I mean, to me, it projects and communicates freedom. I mean, it really does. This aerodynamic flying wing bomber that you never would think would fly. Every time I see it fly over the Rose Bowl, I see it fly out of Palmdale or Edwards or out of Whiteman Air Force Base. It just projects freedom for this nation, but also that of our allies. Just knowing the capabilities of that weapon system. And yes, never wanting to necessarily use it, but when we do have to use those capabilities, knowing that it's going to work right every time. Protect our allies, protect our men and women in the Department of Defense. That's what I think about when I see a B-2.
Growing up, anything that was broken in the house, I usually ended up taking apart. I had no idea what I was doing, but somehow when I put it back together, it usually worked. There was this company called Northrop, and they were building this gigantic facility. And there was all kinds of articles in Popular Mechanics and Aviation Leak about, this top secret bomber program. So we all, applied for these jobs. They brought a whole bunch of us down. They're saying, hey, do you want to work on the coolest airplane ever? Something you've never seen before?
My mother worked for Northrop in the Treasury Department, and she called and said, hey, Northrop just won a big program. We're going to be starting up a big hiring. So I went and applied and got the job. My mom, she said, "What are you working on?" "Mom, I can't tell you what I'm working on. It's a program that's classified."
First day at Northrop Grumman. We walk into this room through a metal door, and there it is, a gigantic, full-scale mock-up of a B-2. And it's huge.
And IPT is an integrated product team. We got challenged to actually do Ship 7 in a lot quicker time than what normally took. It was named the Pirate Ship. Steve was the air vehicle manager.
Jolene was the person that was in Air Vehicle 7 IPT every morning. I don't know what you guys are gonna be doing today, if you're not getting anywhere near the airplane. Wherever you say Jolene, because you don't say no to Jolene.
The different thing about the B-2 is they are the first ones that go in. They knock down the doors, allow other planes that are not stealth and do their job.
We're kind of breaking new ground, very complex system. It's so complex it makes the defensive management system and offensive management system on the B-1 just seem rudimentary. A lot of naysayers, and they all came out of the woodwork. "Oh, it'll never fly, you guys are gonna kill the pilots." You know, you better get it right, because we were responsible for these pilots' lives.
First flight was July 17th. Daughter was born July 1st, so luckily she came in time. My daughter was wrapped up in a little bundle in the back of the camper, and then we were up at sunrise waiting for it to fly.
It's all about first flights, because you spend years and years and years of working long hours. And it wasn't because we had to be, we wanted to be. So there's always something going on. So on AV7, I called my father and I said, "Make sure you bring your camera." So he starts filming, and nothing, and I can see a little sliver. It comes to the end of the runway, and it comes up, and it just becomes from barely visible to huge. And it flies right over our head. It still gives me chills. I'll never forget that experience. He was so proud.
When it flew over, it was one of those goosebump moments that it was awesome.
You know, clearly the effect of that program had on, I'll call it that generation of aerospace workers. I'm no different than anybody else. You can talk to any one of 100 people, 1,000 people that worked on the B-2, and they'll tell you the same stories I did. I wouldn't trade my experience on the B-2 for anything.
There's a lot of things unique about the B-2, and of course the first thing is you can't go anywhere without people driving their cars off the road and stopping and getting their cameras out. You know wherever you go, you're going to get attention. So you really can't go anywhere in the daytime and not be noticed and make a big commotion. On the other hand, flying in combat, and we do that mostly at night, it's all about stealthiness. It's all about being quiet, being sneaky, getting in and out, and not being detected. So it's a paradigm shift. My motivation was not only to help deliver an airplane that was lethal and stealthy and did all the wonderful things it was designed to do, but also bring the command into a whole new mindset of warfare, taking us from old dumb bomb mindset into this idea of precision and stealthiness as our new way of doing business.
The B-2, first to the fight, every time.
I think the predominant thing for me was fascination. You know, nothing in the engineering training explicitly prepares you for whatever job you drop into, with the exception of probably a few techniques and tools here and there, at least for the kinds of jobs I was doing. It was more about, wow, this is the opportunity to learn everything I possibly can about this cool airplane. I mean, it was like a kid in Candyland. You go to these design reviews, and for me, it was more interesting to see how the system worked, how the different systems talk to each other, why we did certain things about designing those features into those subsystems, what were the consequences of failure. You know, we analyzed failure modes and effects. So, I mean, I was fascinated and thought all that stuff was cool, and, you know, shot out of bed every morning to go do it. That's pretty much been the trend for 33 years.
B-2 is a superb example of the inherent technological advantage of a free enterprise system and of a free society. It will ensure that any potential adversary must face the uniquely effective retaliatory potential of the penetrating bomber, with its large payloads of high-yield weapons delivered with devastating accuracy on any target anywhere.
I remember standing up there closing the banquet, and I looked out at the people out there, and I said, "You humble people." And they really were. None of us ever wanted a lot of credit, and we were pleased to do what we did. I think things like stealth and B-2s just makes a great statement about the capability of this country to do something that it wants to. You stand back and look at some of the things these people have achieved, it's pretty impressive and continues to this day.